There's nothing I love more than a PD day. So a training, a PD, I'm all in.
Oh gosh. It was actually interesting. They had PD last Thursday. It was very interesting.
Yeah, I love. Were you doing it at the middle school?
They well, they had the day broken up so that we had to read like a number of articles, and then we're assigned like breakout groups.
Mm-hmm.
And then the afternoon, that was more grade level specific. So yeah, it was interesting. It was good.
No, they're great. I mean, when everyone's in building, they're just invaluable. Even when you're not in building, they're invaluable.
Yeah, this was Zoom. Oh my god, it was nice to seeing like you know, a lot of the teachers,
seeing faces.
Yeah, and so they had to, because some of us weren't, obviously I'm not affiliated with any school with RLA, so fortunately, so they the principal had reached out to other principals just to see, you know, that, and put us in different schools.
He's lovely.
Yeah, he's a good person. Very, very helpful. They're all good. I mean, I have to say, teachers have been amazing. Just everyone, administration, and yeah.
Good evening, all.
Hi there.
Ryan.
Hi.
Hey, guys. Good.
Hello, Miss Amy.
The kids are so loud.
Really? I can't hear them.
Okay. If you at any point you hear my children, just someone tell me.
No, and you know, I'll do this.
It's just wave.
Yeah.
It's like 3 boys at bedtime above me.
Oh my goodness. So technically, Katie, then the recording of the meeting has been posted, so we don't need to do anything more to that. You know what I mean? Because it's
no, they're there. The link is just helpful. I find that whole reopening link is, we have it. And I'll say this once the meeting starts. We have it included in our monthly news, just like a Board of Ed update with the reopening comments. So that's what I would just continue to encourage people to do, because it's all just helpful information.
I think it's great. Let me see if Fairfield. Let me see if they have.
Okay, we'll give everybody a couple minutes. If you could make sure that your name and the school that you represent is listed there for attendance purposes. So perhaps you could rename yourselves. Okay, I guess we'll get started. Hello, everybody. I'm Steve, and your PTA Council President. And this is a general meeting for the PTA Council on February 15th, 2021, and it is 7:03. We're going to call the meeting to order. I sent out the minutes from the last meeting. Hopefully you were all able to give that a look over. And so I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes as is. Any second, please?
A second.
Anna, second. Okay, any changes or discussion on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, we accept the minutes. Okay, one more quick reminder, if you could just put your name in and what school you're affiliated with for attendance purposes. Okay, so let's see here. Let me get President's report here. Okay, so as you know, or you should know, the Fairfield PTA Council is funded by the commission dollars earned through the contracts we negotiate on behalf of the elementary schools with our photo vendors and by our dues. And these funds support the budget we all vote on each year. Due to the unique circumstances brought on by COVID-19, the PTA Council expenditures have been drastically reduced this year, and the income from the pictures has been in steady decline. So your PTA Council Board evaluated these new circumstances and concluded that the schools who raise these funds would know the best way to put them to use or to work, and have arranged that each school participating in our contract with the photo vendors will receive the amount that they raised individually. We hope this decision helps with any shortfall you might have experienced this past year, or for you to replenish the 50 to 100% reserve funds you should have been setting aside for emergencies like this. So looking at last year's experience, this past year's experience, PTA Council does not expect any large requests for grants at this time. And if a time-sensitive request or opportunity does arise, we will be happy to help coordinate funds or help with any funds we have with our savings. So the schools who use LiveTouch as their photo vendor probably already know that they have received checks directly from LiveTouch. And the coffee pot customers will receive a check from our treasurer, Jane, sometime this week for the amount that they occurred through their photographs. So this pandemic has affected many different aspects of our lives and has challenged tried and true procedures we've all become accustomed to. But it's given us an opportunity to look at new sensibilities that may better serve us. So this action, I hope this action that we've voted on opens up a new way of thinking and other possibilities that we can discuss at future meetings. That's my report. Does anybody have any questions for me? Okay, good. So we're going to move on. And the superintendent is not able to make it tonight. He's celebrating the birthday of one of his children, but he did send out a request that I set up a meeting for PTA presidents for next Monday. He wants to discuss the budget and the reopening. So if you're a president and you've received that invitation, I hope you can make it. And if your president can't make it, we want to make sure that somebody from your school is there. So any delegate would be welcome. Okay, so we're going to go right on. I see Trish just popped in. Hi, Trish. Would you like to give us your BOE report? You can just unmute when you're ready.
Sorry, I was chewing on ice. I'm trying to remember what was the last thing that we talked about because I've had so many meetings in between. It all gets jumbled together. But the last meeting was actually a very, very short meeting, which, you know, all the meetings I mentioned January, that was very pleasant. It was basically I don't know if Mike Cummings is on, but he gave his superintendent's report. They mentioned the reopening committee had met, that we would be meeting in the future. They were waiting for the new CDC guidelines. And trying to remember the agenda, the last one, we talked about some policies coming up. The big focus right now for the Board of Ed is to go and advocate for the Board of Ed budget in front of the other town bodies. So Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, RTM. And I believe, I forget who it was, somebody posted it on social media, but I can certainly do it again if anybody wants to keep up to date with those meetings and help advocate for the budget with us. I can also put up the email addresses if you want to send a letter of support for the current budget. And honestly, any questions right now? We're still getting a lot of emails about a few things, but until our next meeting, I don't actually want to bring anything up yet. I don't like to put rumors out there, so.
Okay, well, thanks, Trish. In fact, our whole meeting tonight is going to be talking about how to advocate for the budget. So we'll get to that very shortly. So thanks for your report. Okay, let's see. Next on our agenda is the reopening committee. Anna, would you like to give us an update? Unmute, Anna, before you get going there.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Happy Monday. So the reopening committee met on Monday, February 8th, and we have actually posted a link to the meeting in the chat section. And for all of those who had not had a chance to watch, all meetings at this point in time are now posted on the Fairfield Public Schools website. Mr. Cummings gave an update of further progress being made towards reopening students at all levels. There was discussion about the use of barriers during instructional time at the elementary level. After consultation with both the administration and the Fairfield Health Department, it was decided to remove those barriers with the exception of lunch and snack moving forward as it interfered with instruction. As of March 1st, all students with IEPs will be offered 5 days in-person learning across all grade levels. In addition, the Board of Education and Mr. Cummings will be having a special meeting to discuss the timeline and implementation for full-time returns for all levels in the next 2 weeks. As soon as this date is announced, Katie Flynn will be sending an email to all PTA presidents so everyone is aware. As always, comments can still be submitted to the reopening committee at the link in the chat. And again, it is also posted in the Fairfield Public Schools website. Please do continue to encourage our communities to use these tools to offer their insight and feedback.
Thank you. Any questions for Anna regarding reopening? Okay. Don't see anybody. Okay, so why don't we move on to our headliner. Katie and Caitlin are going to give us a report on advocacy and a little advocacy 101.
I think I'm going to figure out this share screen situation. Hi, everybody. So over the past really few months, I think we've all kind of been trying to figure out, you know, this advocacy piece and how it fits into what we do on really a daily basis with our PTAs. So I went in and kind of dug into, you know, the national PTA and did some trainings on there. So I'm going to just share a little bit of what I've learned and what Caitlin and I have kind of learned together and our ideas for some strategies moving forward for how you can incorporate advocacy into the daily work of your school PTAs. So let me see if I can share screen. Okay. Is that working?
Yes.
Okay. Ooh, Sorry, I'm just gonna move this little. Okay, so this is it really adapted from the Advocate with PTA training. So I will also link that in the chat for anyone who's interested. And after doing the training, it was a pretty easy training. So if there is interest in it, I would love to lead a full workshop of this in the coming weeks. So we'll kind of throw out some feedback from that. But so does advocacy fit into PTAs? Yes. In fact, it was the crux of the creation of PTAs. There is a long-held belief that PTAs only function as a support and fundraising mechanisms for our local schools. This could not be further from the truth. The National PTA was founded by advocates and has a strong history of impacting educational policy and advocating. The PTA is the oldest and largest volunteer advocacy association in the United States. The PTA was founded in 1897 and has a long-standing record of influencing national policy from child labor laws and school lunch programs to the creation of a juvenile justice system and more enhanced relationships between parents and teachers. Both national and local PTAs continue to have an immense impact on federal and local changes that support all our children. So how does advocacy work? It's possible to keep putting Band-Aids over holes in a dam, but until the dam is repaired, it will continue to leak. This is where advocacy comes in. Advocacy is required to achieve significant reforms in education. There are several types of advocacy, including direct service, platform issues, and grassroots. By breaking them down, it is possible to see how different approaches solve different community problems. For example, look at a current issue, such as a cut in educational funding. If PTAs were solely a service association, they might only do a fundraiser for schools to help close the budget gap. If they were solely an education association, they might only conduct a study that identifies the impacts of funding cuts on students. If they were solely speaking for others, they might only pay a lobbyist to head to the Capitol and lobby for more school funding. But PTAs are also a grassroots association with the ability to create an issues-based campaign which families can rally behind and address themselves. So I'm gonna swing over to Caitlin to kind of talk about the implementations locally and how we can take these grassroots efforts and kind of bring them to life. I don't know if I can
Thank you,
unshare.
Katie.
I'll keep it up for share. Just let me know when to move things.
Perfect. So this year, I'm not sure many of us would have predicted last year when we were going through budget season that we would be in a similar space as far as doing everything remotely. I think we thought that we would be back in person, but this is the reality. So the responsibilities of PTAs to advocate in ways that maybe are a little bit untraditional or ways that haven't been as popular in the past are critical this year, because that's really the main way that PTA's voices are going to be heard. If there isn't a space for public comment, to pack a room at a meeting, or to have that one-on-one dialogue with people, it creates a very different atmosphere. And so Katie and I just wanted to highlight some ways that PTAs can easily make their voices heard and make a difference. So simply having knowledge of what's going on as far as the Board of Education's going, and the budget, Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen meetings, having somebody present now is one good thing about being remote. Is it's probably easier than ever. You don't have to go in person to any of these meetings. You can just get the links when it's appropriate and jump online, or they're recorded and they're posted afterwards, so somebody from your PTA can review them after the fact. But it's really important to make sure that we're keeping up with these meetings so that we have an accurate pulse of what's happening in them. And using writing and publishing in ways that maybe we've tended to shy away from. So whether that's sending out newsletters, or writing letters to the editor, or contacting local leaders in our community directly, we are going to rely on those things this year for sure. So Katie, I don't know if you can just scroll down a little bit for me, please. So, and these are all points some of you may already be doing some of these things, like including, let's say, budget highlights in your newsletters that go out. or some of you may have made statements of support in the past, and that's something that you're thinking of doing currently. But what we included here on this document that Katie emailed out earlier today on the second page, this is the statement of support that PTA Council put together. The leadership, we got together and voted on it this week. So super short and succinct and right to the point. It is certainly nonpartisan. We know that educating our children should be something that remains nonpartisan. And we wanted to make sure that we put this out in a way that PTAs, all of you, could take this and use it as it is or adapt it to put out in your communities. So if you can go back to that document you were on, Katie.
Oh God. I'll just close that. Let me see if I get it back. There we go.
So on the second page here, we have resources specifically for local advocacy. So Trish brought up email addresses. So here's a bunch for the town bodies that you'll see specifically here. And we put some samples. So I found a sample letter to the editor from a couple of years ago that the president of the McKinley PTA at the time had submitted to the Fairfield Citizen. So there's a link for that in here. There's a sample action alert, which is from the state PTA organization that they put together regarding teachers and vaccinations.
I'm actually going to.
So when you click on that and scroll to the bottom, they not only have their own resources on here, but if you scroll to the bottom, there's a screen grab of what the action alert looks like that they put out in their newsletter. And I know some of the PTAs here have taken that and are spreading that around. So we just felt that both of those were really good examples of, again, of nonpartisan ways to use your voice. So, and then there's also in here a template to the editor and instructions for the Fairfield Citizen and the patch as how to publish a letter to the editor. So Katie also included an example from.
This is North Stratfield's, with their permission, our Friday flash from two weeks ago, maybe. So this is just an example of how, I'm sure many PTAs are doing this, but it's just, it's going directly to your community weekly. It's a great place to just include information in a quick blast.
So again, I think it's really important to stress that these days, everything feels political, but the reality is this is not something that's political, and it's not something that we have to steer away from, because there's a big difference between getting involved in politics and being involved in advocacy. So my day job is I'm the executive director of a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and there's certainly things that my organization is responsible for putting out there that could take a political turn. You just need to make sure that you address them in the appropriate way, and that's what advocacy is. So we're here to support you, to answer any questions you have, again, to make sure that, when the budget goes up in front of our town bodies, that it is supported, because, we want to make sure that our children are getting the support that they need in our schools, especially now with everything that's been going on. Something Katie and I were talking about earlier today is we have a lot of new families in town, and so many people move to Fairfield, for the school system, and they're excited to be here for that. And, we want to make sure that we keep Fairfield a place for us, for those of us who have been here forever, for the newcomers, for everyone in between, keep it a place where education is a top priority.
Very much. Thank you, Caitlin. Said it better.
Does anyone have any questions for us? Any thoughts, any concerns, hopes, fears, dreams?
All the above.
Can I just add something? Just as a person who gets a lot of email from people in town, highly encourage people who use your template for a letter. The message gets lost when every email is the same exact thing. Truly, and as somebody who has to reply to these, I almost don't know what to say, because I've already said it to 3 other people. I'd rather they put a personal touch to it.
Trish, thank you. So the last, I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago, right before the budget was kicking up, and this is my, I don't know how old's past. This is my 4th year as budget rep for our homeschool PTA. So I was putting together emails and I was like, I am not going to do a template. We're going to lead. And by the third email, people were like, do you have a template? And I was like, here's some ideas. And so I think a template is great and we should absolutely give our PTA some guidance. But I think Trisha's point is very well taken, that just like ourselves, our students are all individual, our needs are all individual. And the more we focus on really the tremendously diverse and wonderful job our public schools do, the more we highlight how needed the budget is. So I think to steer away from those templates is a very good idea, especially around the budget. Thank you, Trish.
Anyone else? Christine?
Just to, I totally agree with Trisha, just in terms of if you're going to be writing a letter as an individual, to just tell your story and what's important to you for your children as the budget makes its way through the other town bodies. Right now, it is with the First Selectman's Woman's Office. So if you want to reach out to her as she's building her budget, now would be a good time to do that. In terms of if your PTA as a whole wants to make a stance on the budget, I think what Katie provided was very helpful. And you could just bring it to your PTA. As a past PTA president, another thing I would do is just meet with the principal when, you know, I'm sure he or she goes to your meetings, and just ask what the priority is for your school and things that you're concerned about, and just sharing that information moving forward. Steve and I, you know, over the years worked on many budgets together, and really we're advocates, but it was really as simple as just voting to support the Board of Education budget as presented, if that's what the PTA supported. And then the Board of Ed rep or the PTA council rep could just, PTA president could advocate during public comment as the budget made its way through all the town bodies. Or if you have a suggested change, that might be something to add as well. I don't want to necessarily say that you have to, you know, support it. I hope that you would, but if there's something that you think that other town bodies should know about, now's the time to share that information as well. At the Board of Ed meeting, the conversation of structural change came up again. So I would really talk to your principals about ideas that you might have for structural change. We're going to be having a special Board of Ed meeting in the next coming weeks to talk about the district improvement plan, which you recall we were supposed to be working on this year, that sort of got stalled. So I would ask for you to also give that feedback to the superintendent and other town bodies just as the budget makes its way, you know, to approval in May. But thank you for all that you're doing and for having this tonight. I think it's really important. Your voice is really important because our budget really is about your values. So thank you.
Thanks, Christine. No, and it is. And I think it's just important to highlight too, this is just one last thing that I've observed. Obviously, it's a really hard time right now. I think everybody can empathize that parents and staff and teachers, it's been a long, long year. And I think there is a tendency when you're tired to be apathetic. And I think this is just sadly not a budget season that we have that ability. So I just highly encourage you to, you know, just keep your community informed, keep it on the front burner. But yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, the benefit of voting on the statement with your PTA is that it allows any of your officers to stand up in a public meeting and speak on behalf of all your PTA members. So if you can bring it up for a vote in front of your PTAs, that's one of the ways you can get more power for your voice. Thank you very much, Katie, and thank you, Caitlin. Anything else? Any other questions for them? Okay, we're going to move on. I don't see Rachel here, but Katie, oh, okay, go ahead.
I have that. So the reopening committee hasn't met in the past since we've met last, but I did get an email and had a few conversations with Rachel and a few other RLA parents and a few staff members. And I just want to make a recommendation and kind of like a reminder, especially as we start to hit into the spring and activities are going on and more things are beginning to happen, to really make a concerted effort to make sure that any programmatic things that you are planning as a PTA incorporate our remote learning students. And I know, especially if you have an exec board that doesn't have an RLA parent, that can sometimes very easily get, you know, in the hecticness of this life right now, kind of forgotten, but it really makes such a difference to those students of your community. And I know as someone who I am currently a president-elect with 2 presidents, one of which is a remote learning parent, that it's been such an asset to our community to have that insight. So the more you can incorporate your remote learning representative and any ideas they have. And as always, me and Rachel are here for any ideas. We're kind of hearing them from all sorts of different schools. So if anyone needs any help on that front, but she just wanted me to mention that reminder.
Oh no, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm putting together the variety show at my school. And I know some of the kiddos that are in remote learning would love to join in on that.
I can have North Stratfield's doing theirs too. So like I said, we're all kind of planning. I know everyone, there's a lot of bingos and variety shows. And as we start to talk about 5th grade committees, there's a lot of events that are going to try and do something. So I think we can all brainstorm together to make sure we're as inclusive as possible.
Thanks, Katie. I spoke with Jen, and she said that the Equity Committee has nothing new to report this month, but they're continuing their good work. And Riney, would you like to speak for Fairfield Cares?
Sure. How is everybody? I know we at board went through some tough times recently. So I do want to share in the chat a couple of links. One is in case, you know, you can share that with the communities too. If you know somebody or yourself, you feel like you need to reach out to somebody for help, a warm line or something right now, I'll share that. And I know there's also a link again back to the school's website for social emotional learning and help, which is really important. And secondly, I hope that everybody in middle and high school parents have been receiving postcards for kind of vaping resources. You might remember last month I asked everybody to take our vaping quick survey to see what people knew about vaping and how much information they've had so far. And so now we've been sending our postcards to the middle and high school parents, and also in case, because the mail has not been terribly reliable, we have a news item there, so people can check this out and see what we're sending to everybody. And especially if you have a student who is at a private school, or families at private schools, you can share that with them. And then the last item I'm going to share is a link to our kind of current happenings page. And of note there is that on this Friday, the 18th, was that the 18th? Yes, Thursday, I think, whatever, the 18th. There is a what you need to know about vaping presentation with a Yale senior research assistant. Her name is Trisha Dahl. She's phenomenal. You can sign up for that if you don't feel like you want to learn more after the postcards you've been receiving. There's also a link in there to a rebroadcast of empowering teens to have healthy dating relationships. February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and our kids are not immune. My 4th is a senior in high school now, and they go through a lot. So the more our kids know about how to recognize when they have a healthy relationship and feel good about it, but also how to recognize when their relationships are not healthy or even toxic or dangerous. So it's always good to get informed before there's a crisis. So I encourage everybody to maybe check out that broadcast when you can't sleep. And there's also a recording for the Chris Heron presentation, which is available for another 2 days. So that's another one highly recommended as a recording for on the presentation for POT. That was our friends over in Westchester who held that, and kindly made their recording available. And then finally, there is another parent workshop with our friends from Mothers Against Drunk Driving. That's on February 26th. We already had one on the 9th, but that's also a good one if that time frame works for you. So all these links are helpful to get to that. And also on our main website, or the town's main website, there is a link to, subscribe to newsletters and to agenda information. So I'm going to put that in. That's not just Fairfield Care specific. You can also subscribe to beach closings or whatever on that list. So I'm going to put that out there too. So and that's it from me at Fairfield Cares. We have a meeting coming up this Wednesday, 8:30, and our website has the Zoom link for that available, and our agendas have that too for anybody who wants to join. And we're getting a sneak peek of a video that our youth group or youth committee put together for the 8th grade health classes. So I haven't seen it. I'm super excited for that one. And then also we are getting a report on recent focus groups that have been held with parents and youth in town. So I hope that's going to be very informative as well. And that's going to help us shape our work, what we need to do, and help our kids thrive. Thanks.
Thanks, Randy. Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming. I know this is a holiday, and we do have some people who are out of town, so we will not have a treasurer report today. But I do hope to see somebody from your school at next week's meeting. Do we have any new business that anybody wants to bring up while we're together? Anything that anybody needs to address in old business? Okay, then I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 7:35. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it, and have a good night.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.